All right, what's going on, everybody? So today we're gonna be working on the Wagoneer again. This is like part 2 or part 3 of trying to figure out the bump steer on this thing. So today I'm gonna work on replacing the passenger side steering knuckle. So over here on the workbench, I have the knuckle that I'm gonna be installing. This is an earlier model Wagoneer flat top knuckle. It was already a flat top. I had to mill it true flat so that way I can install this crossover steering arm. And while it was in the mill, drilled and tapped all the holes for the studs. And they're like an oddball size. I kind of got lucky that I had the right stuff to do this. And I went ahead and ran a die nut up and down the studs that holds the spindle on here. And I have new ball joints to put in there. I just need to put them in. Yeah, so I bee blasted it, painted it, made it look decent to where it ain't just a block of rust. I had mud and stuff caked in around the backside where the ball joints go. You can see right there where I milled it. And I'll drop in, I have some pictures and a little video of me doing the work. I got it. So I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this cotter pin out, fold the two ends back over, and well, good thing I got new ones in a box. Leverage here. Have to get my impact on that one. So we'll move on to the brake caliper. I'd say those are good and tight. The other thing about a leaf spring, you got somewhere to set your caliper at so you don't have to leave it hanging. Go ahead and pop this wheel bearing cover off here. We just got this one inner snapper in. It looks like this sleeve with this locking hub right here will come out. Yeah, much better with two. Definitely going to be cleaning all this and re-greasing it whenever. Yeah, all this needs to be taken apart and cleaned and greased. This is full of, yeah, I'll be wire wheeling every bit of this and re-greasing it with fresh wheel grease whenever I go back together. And for reference, I am stacking this in order of how I'll take it apart, just so that I know I got it all together correctly. There we go. Everything in here is disgusting. It needs to be cleaned. Yeah. Just like the old F-150. You got a bearing nut in the back that sets your preload, and you got the locking washer that sits in the tab on the spindle, and then you got the the bearing nut that captures all of it. Yeah, boy. I don't think there's grease, but there's not a whole lot of grease in these bearings. Okay. Right, that's loose. All I got left to do is do the two upper and lower ball joints. And the lower one's going to be kind of a pain to get to. Let me soak it with some Kroll. I'll soak this upper one with some Kroll. I was expecting the worst trying to break these loose. Alright. Now with the old, I took the spindle, I went and filed, wire welded it, and I filed down the little highs I made and the little burrs from driving the screwdriver in. Actually, I think I may have missed one. Anyways, I'm gonna go get the file and I'm gonna take care of that one. But I want to show you there's a needle bearing in the back side of this spindle, and it rides right here on this shaft. I flushed it out. Actually, I used WD-40 to flush it out, and I cleaned all the old grease out of this bearing, and I repacked it with some high pressure red grease. Figured, you know, the bearings are fine. I didn't have any weird wheel noises. I clean them and repack them because they obviously, you know, they haven't been re-greased in 30 years probably, maybe longer. So let me clean up that little burr, and then we'll put this on. We'll just work it in with the impact ever so gentle. Part is I ran a die nut down all these studs, and they're acting like I didn't even run a die nut on them. So there's not enough room to slide this in between here, so I'm gonna have to loosen these nuts on this upper arm and wiggle the little taper locks loose on it. It's a little more together than what it was a little while ago. Yeah. Battery died on my GoPro, and I just continued on with what I was doing because my hands were covered in grease and I didn't feel like stopping. But loosened this up just enough to where I could pick it up, put this in, tighten this up, put the dust cover with the bearing bracket, with the brake caliper bracket back on. Oh, I still gotta put this one bolt in it. I started playing around with the drag length across here. As you see, it's going to be very short, so I'll have to cut and modify the drag length. And then back to this. We're gonna finish up here first. My next move is I have the bearings I'm gonna repack in the hub. So I have the hub over here, and I very carefully knocked the wheel seal out. As you see right here, I have the old wheel seal out. The rubber is still very pliable, which tells me the seal is still usable. And I used a long brass hammer. I just kind of tapped on the bearing with enough pressure, working my way around the bearing to knock it out without deforming it in any major way or shape. So that is out. Now I gotta clean these nasty bearings, repack them, reinstall them. I need to clean the inside of here out real good. Once I get all that done, then we can put this back on there. Put all that back on. I need to look up the torque for that bearing nut, and then I can start stacking all the rest of it back together. I know you're probably thinking, well, man, you're doing all this one side. Why not do the other side? So look, I already thought about all that. I have 2 new front brake rotors for this thing that the guy that I bought it from gave me. I don't feel like taking the other side apart right now. So we're doing what we got to do to make this thing drivable, because I didn't have any weird wheel bearing noises before. So we're going to clean these, repack these with some good high pressure temperature grease I got. Reinstall it and extend. Like I said, last thing I got left to do is extend that drag length. I may have to put a little S-bend in it just to get it over the leaf spring. I don't know yet. So I'm gonna take it out of its adjustment sleeve in a little bit after we get this all done, and we'll double check if it's going to clear or not. But for now, let's focus on what I was already working on. Okay. Got me a pan to do all this in. If you're wondering what's in here, I have a jug of concentrated purple power. I just poured some in there and went and put a little bit of water in it to cut it. I'm gonna start with wiping all the excess grease off the outside of these bearings, because this grease looks like it's 40 years old or longer. I mean, what's 79, 89, 99, 09, 19, yeah, about 44 years old, something like that. 45, 46 years old, my bad. 47. Anyways, it's over almost 50 years old. 40 to 50 years old grease probably in these bearings. And they feel great. I don't see any crazy wear on them. If you're wondering why I'm using WD-40 to do this with, because A, I have a bunch of it. B, I do not have any degreaser on hand. I guess I might have to go buy some to degrease this rotor once I'm done, and also it works great for flushing that purple power back out of these bearings. So now it's time for the fun part of repacking these bearings. So I know this towel isn't the cleanest. I think I got a cleaner one. I got another one back here. As I pack the bearings, I'm gonna lay them on this bag. So I got somewhere decent clean to set them at while I clean the inside of here. You know, reline the inside of that with a little bit of fresh grease. So got my one bearing. Got me a lot of grease on my hand here. of them up in that bag, slide them to the side. Now for this next part, it's gonna be kind of fun. There's an enormous amount of just old, cakey, gunky grease in here. And I'm just gonna sit here with the screwdriver and kind of pick this out. I'll get back with y'all. Well, there's stuff all over the screen. I'll get back with y'all after I get all this cleaned up. All right, actually I found a can of cleaner, some degreaser, which has helped, but the rotor is slick looking because it's got oily degreaser all over it. But if you look, you can see inside is extremely clean now between that, a wire brush, and a combination of my wire wheel. Now, with that being clean, I wiped everything out good. Now I can flip this thing over, like so. We can put the inner bearing back in, the inner lip seal back in. So I'm gonna take our freshly repacked bearing, or if you chose to put new bearings, we were going back with the old one, seeing as there was really nothing wrong with it. And then, before we're gonna get our lip seal, which I reused because there's nothing wrong with it, I go and drop it and get it dirty. Oh. Wipe it off. Get all the floor gunk off of it. All right. So now, before I put this in, one thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take some grease. I'm gonna pack this lip with grease. That's probably why this lip seal was still good, because this was packed full of grease. Because somebody, if this thing was redone at any point in time, whoever redid knew what they were doing a little bit. And with a little grease on the lip itself. It will keep this rubber from drying out and degrading, because it got this constant lubrication on the backside, keeping it oiled. And then I'm gonna put a nice healthy glob right on the inside back right here. Just tap it in. Oh, right in the grease. All right. See, like I said, there's gonna be that little void. That's why I went ahead and packed it with grease between the seal and the inner part, because there's a void. I usually just like to fill that void with grease, and there's more than enough grease there for it to kind of distribute itself, right? Okay, so now we're going to install the hub and spindle. The hub and rotor assembly back onto here. Put a little bit of grease back here where this lip seal rides. Actually, it rides back here. Slide it down there and seat it, and this ring that goes in front of it. I am going to pack a little bit of grease down in here after we put all the bearing nuts back on, which I went ahead and cleaned. So I'm going to put just a little bit in the threads right here. So I'm going to run this one in by hand real quick. And I'm going to stop, clean my hands, and probably should have done that before I got super greasy. Look up what this torque on this wheel is supposed to be. Okay, so I was able to find a service manual online that showed all the torque specs and the procedure for doing it. So it says while spinning the hub, tighten the lock nut to 50 foot-pounds, break it loose, then tighten it to 35 foot-pounds while still turning it, and then back it off a 1/16 of an inch, and then install the washer, the middle washer, and the retaining nut. And you tighten the retaining nut to a minimum of 50 foot-pounds, it says. So we're gonna get started on that. So we're gonna set our torque wrench to 50 foot-pounds, that's Newton meters. Get on the bald eagle side of this torque wrench here. All right, 50 foot-pounds. always hated this axle nut, this axle socket. I don't know why, but that's 50. Give it a few spins. Ratchet. So my 95 F-150 I had, if you look at the tangs on the end of this thing, they're kind of jacked up from the axle nuts on it. Because for whatever reason, I think it was my wheels that I had on that truck. I had some slotted mag wheels. And I don't think those wheels, and I think it was also made because I was using that cheap wheel bearing grease. I don't think those wheels and wheel bearings got along. Broke free. Alright, so I'm gonna set this to 35. But you had to, everything I looked up online, I looked up 2 different torque specs for those wheel bearings. 35. And there was, I tried both of them, different techniques people had done to get them to seat and work correctly. But it was like 150 foot-pounds to seat the wheel, the lug nut, I mean not the lug nut, the bearing in the combs. All right, that's 35. And it says to back off a 1/16 of an inch. A 1/16 of an inch isn't much, so we're gonna just barely get. That's probably more than a 1/16. So I'm gonna come back just a little bit. All right, now we can install this. So one side's kind of beveled, the other side's completely flat. In my opinion, I'm going to put the flat side to, I put it at the bottom for some reason. Should know better than to do that. I'm gonna put the flat side to the inner nut. So if that makes sense to me. I messed myself up here I'll put the spindle back on, not paying attention. I should have put this tang to the top. And then I'm gonna put this cleaner side, because this one had something stuck to it on one side. I'm gonna put this side to the washer. Alright. Put this there. Coat the thin coating in the splines. Make sure it's seated, and it is. We can put the cover back on. My SD card got full, and I need to delete some stuff off of it anyways. But I have this all wrapped up. I need to clean the rotor before I put the brake caliper back on. I did unthread the drag link and put it into its new home just to see about what I needed to cut, or how much I need to add to the length of it. And it's a good little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get my saw out, and I'm gonna cut this thing off probably about 6 inches from the threads, and then I'm gonna thread I'm gonna put the threaded end back into the sleeve and measure how much I need to fill, how much void I need to fill up, right? Okay, I spent a little while this morning over at my dad's house machining the ends of the two pieces of drag link flat. Of course, the one side I was able to put in the jaws of the lathe chuck and face it off till it was true. The other one, because of the ball joint side, it wouldn't fit into the throat of the lathe, of the chuck anyway, the throat of the chuck. So I ended up having to take that one, put it in a mill, and face mill it flat with the side of the end mill. So that's the sleeve I made to extend this, and it looks like we're gonna have plenty. Get this back in here. It's hard to do one-handed. Alright, so it looks like once we unthread the adjustment sleeve out of here a little bit and capture this side and just kind of split the difference, it'll have enough adjustment. And yeah, so let me take this back off and we'll weld. I think I'm gonna weld this side up first since this side doesn't fall out. We'll weld up this side. Oh, the lock washer shattered. That's what came off. That's cool.
Did you need that?
Kinda. It'll tighten up without it.
Yeah, part of it went under the blue truck.
Well, onward. That was about. Leave that over there because it's piping hot. All right, cut the wheel all the way to the left.
This one? Holy.
Oh, it bottomed out right there.
I can barely turn it anymore.
Yeah, I know. All right, go all the way to the other way.
I don't even think you would ever turn it quite that much.
You got way more. We don't have to buy the spacer, but it's good enough to go try it out and probably driving around if it works.
Yay.
Look at this guy right behind me. He really wants me to pet him. He's a good kitty. The sad part is I'm highly allergic to cats. That's why he stays outside most of the time. Back to the Wagoneer. And you can see when you cut it really hard to the left, it does hit the leaf spring. I can order a 1/2-inch spacer, and there's enough studs sticking out right here. I could probably get away with not changing the studs with adding the spacer. And if the spacer I feel like it's too thick, I can get away with making it a little thinner. I might just take it and mill it down a little bit. But I'm gonna call this done. And I'm gonna put this wheel on here. I'm gonna take this thing for a test drive. All right, so we're taking the thing to town. Give it a good test drive that way, and it went up and down the road a couple times. Did great. Made a longer loop the second time around. It still needs a better alignment. I'll probably take my jack stands and lay them out, get a better do a string alignment. It'll be a little bit better than doing a tape measure, but my wife's very proud of her big ass stainless cup. fitting in this little rinky-dink cup holder here. Because that's her biggest thing, is that her Stanley fits in the cup holder in here.
Gotta have a Stanley.
Found a little issue. Fuel tank's leaking when it's super full. Leaking out of one of them too. Or no, there's 3 different hookups right there. It's leaking out. One of them's leaking. Just gotta figure out which one exactly. But anyways, just gotta make sure we don't overfill it from now on until I get it fixed. That's good. This Cherokee right here. I would say doing the crossover steering was a success, as this thing is now drivable, at least for the most part. It still has some minor bump steer issues, like it's got to be a bad bump, right? And I mean, I put a bunch of miles on it all in one go and it did great. Like I said, there was 2 or 3 bad bumps that I hit that were just kind of like you know, they pulled you pretty good, but it wasn't nothing like it was before. Like small bumps made you want to go off the road. So anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. If you like the content, hit the like and subscribe button, leave a comment, follow along for more stuff on the Wagoneer in the future. There's gonna be a lot more going through this thing and cleaning it up and kind of doing like a resto mod on it. There's gonna be more Prelude content, and then, you know, I got other things I'm working on, and maybe eventually I'll get back to the RSX and I can actually build it. But in the meantime, thank y'all for watching.